The history of Mesopotamia begins in the region of southwestern Asia. Its name is derived from a Greek word meaning between rivers, referring to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, but the region can be broadly defined to include the area that is now eastern Syria, southeastern Turkey, and most of Iraq. The region was the center of a culture whose influence extended throughout the Middle East and as far as Indus Valley, Egypt, and the Mediterranean. Ancient Mesopotamia's history stretches over 3,000 years and includes many cultures including Sumerians, Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Mesopotamia was part of the Fertile Crescent, an area also known as the cradle of civilization, for the number of innovations that arose from the early societies in this region, which are among some of the earliest known human civilizations on the earth. Some of these inventions include checkers, the wheel, cuneiform, which is the first written language, laws, plow, the boat, and irrigation systems. It is also famous for being home to one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. Ancient Mesopotamia was ruled by kings. However, they only ruled a single city rather than the entire civilization, meaning that each city was ruled by a different king, like King Hammurabi of Babylon. Each king and city designed the rules and systems that they thought would be most beneficial for their people. The Mesopotamians arguably invented the centralized state and developed kingship. Cities were political focal points as well as urban centers, and leadership was passed down by kingly dynasties. As Mesopotamian culture developed, its city-states coalesced into kingdoms. There were also many civil servants. One of the highest positions was the scribe, who worked closely with the king and the bureaucracy, recording events and tallying up commodities. Temples provided welfare service and protected widows and orphans. The upper classes of ancient Mesopotamia included kings and their families, priests and priestesses, ranking military officers, scribes, and wealthier merchants and traders. The bottom class consisted solely of slaves. The king was an almost divine figure who created laws, headed the military, and provided for building the city's infrastructure. He laid taxes upon the people to fund the city's defense and public works such as building temples, digging wells, and maintaining the city walls. Warfare between Mesopotamian cities was very common, and they were all rivals and competitors between whom political squabbling was common. Strong militaries were necessary for a city's defense or for actively warring with the neighboring city. High-ranking military officers were greatly rewarded for their victories. The beginning of the world, they believed, was a victory by the gods over the forces of chaos. But even though the gods had won, this did not mean chaos could not come again. Through daily rituals, attention to the deities, proper funeral practices, and simple civic duty, the people of Mesopotamia felt they helped maintain balance in the world and kept the forces of chaos and destruction at bay. Along with expectations that one would honor one's elders and treat people with respect, the citizens of the land were also to honor the gods through the jobs they performed every day. Mesopotamians were polytheistic, or in other words, believed in many gods and goddesses. They believed in 4 primary gods of the hills, sky, wind, and water. There were also numerous local gods that protected individual cities and kings. They tried to keep the gods happy and satisfied, but if bad events occurred, like a drought, then they knew they had upset the gods. The king and priests were required to keep in contact with the gods to make sure they remained content. The traditional explanation of the fall of Mesopotamia is one of divine retribution. Angered by the hubris of the kings, the gods supposedly unleashed the barbaric Gutians to descend out of the highlands and overwhelm Akkadian towns. More recent and conventional explanations have put the blame on overpopulation, provincial revolt, nomadic incursions, or managerial incompetence, though many scholars despaired of ever identifying the root cause of the collapse. A team of archaeologists, geologists, and soil scientists have now found evidence that seems to solve the mystery. The Akkadian Empire, they suggest, was beset by a 300-year drought and literally dried up. A microscopic analysis of soil moisture at the ruins of Akkadian cities in the northern farmlands disclosed that the onset of the drought was swift and the consequences severe, beginning about 2200 BC. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also turn on notifications by clicking on the bell icon. Thank you for your time and stay tuned for more such related content.